with the live stream going over the Justice versus Wardley fight. I just uploaded Keyshawn versus Edwin de Los Santos, and there's so many fights, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm currently building my parlay, building my money line parlay, as well as some method of victory, some stoppage picks, and there's a few fights starting Friday night, all the way up till Japan and Australia on Sunday night that I'm very comfortable with. I'm very confident about in terms of picking outcomes. Wherever you are, like this video. Let me know how your parlays are coming along. Let me know if you're building them. Let me know if you have any questions and who you like in Keyshawn versus De Los Santos. It's that inactivity for me with De Los Santos. You know, not fighting since 18 months, 18 plus months. And then also, when you talk about a fighter who's been inactive, what gets lost in that narrative, Carlos, I appreciate you. What gets lost in that narrative when you talk about a fighter who's inactive is their opponent. Now, Keyshawn has been active. He fought 3 times in 2024. He's already fought once in 2025. Keyshawn by decision. Yeah, and the more I'm looking at this, Hooney by decision, Carlos, I love those. I'm on board with both of those picks. And, you know, when we're putting, it just depends on how much money, Carlos, you want to put on those, right? Because sometimes we could overthink our decision. You know, you could see Hooney by decision. Hey, and then I'm hearing some people saying, you know, either way stoppage. The thing about that is Wardley has only gone the distance once. Like, people were commenting on my comment section about how the hell does Wardley have more pro fights but less pro rounds? He's a knockout artist, 17 out of 18. A lot of his knockouts come early. Justice Hooney comes from a smart camp, guys. This guy's he's gonna be prepped for that. That's your game plan. This is why having a smart coach, a smart game plan, and from the coaching perspective, having a smart fighter who's able to execute that game plan is so important when you're climbing these levels to world class, to title contention. And this is why, you know, in my breakdown I talked about with Hooney, I fully expect him. I would be shocked if Hooney engaged right off the bat and gave Wardley the fight he wants right off the bat. That would be dumb. And I don't expect him to do that. So I could see Hooney winning by decision. Yeah, Mac, 100%. You took the words literally out of my mouth. With my prediction with Keyshawn, obviously I'm comfortable. I think Keyshawn's going to beat De Los Santos. I like Keyshawn kind of everywhere, man. Even people telling me about De Los Santos, the film study. Everybody's high on that knockout to win ratio, but when you look at, you know, the resume, a lot of those knockouts, I mean, 14 out of 16, I wouldn't necessarily say that he has more power than Keyshawn just because Keyshawn has a lower knockout to win ratio. Love the double live. What's up, Goat? Yeah, Goat. I was watching the live you boys just did with Gary, and I ended up finding that interview with Frank Martin that you asked about on my first live, and we didn't get much answers, did we? Am I the only one who didn't get the notification? Goat, you have to hit the notification button. So if you go by my channel and hit where it says subscribed, there's a bell. Just hit the bell. And maybe you don't have your YouTube notifications on. Guys, but wherever you're tuning in, like this video. Let me know what sort of ways you're leaning. I was talking about, I think Keyshawn has more power than people give him credit. In my breakdown, I talked about how Keyshawn's power is different. It's not one-punch power. Keyshawn relies a lot on timing and punch placement. And he's really good at that, and he does that really, really well. Normally, I get them. I don't know, Goat, man. Maybe they're out to get me. I didn't even. Hopefully, you guys are getting the notifications. But yeah, stick to it. This is Americans or wherever you are. This is your Tuesday night. From Tuesday onward, so far, I'm gonna be going live twice a day and still doing my videos. Monday, Tuesday, my end, I do one live and then break down and do the videos. But from Wednesday onwards on my side of the table, we're getting close to fight night, right? We got fight night in 2 nights. We got a Friday night fight night that I'm excited about. You guys have fights Thursday night, man. So I don't know how hungry you are for some juice, for some action, but there's 2 top 20 light heavyweights fighting in Montreal. I have Keyshawn by decision. And Mac, that's where I was getting at, is I could also see Keyshawn stopping De Los Santos. Body work. He doesn't have a lot of volume. It would be like De Los Santos's defense exchanging with Keyshawn, but we'll see if I do that. I could see a knockout too. Give us more context on why Keyshawn wins, bro. He hasn't faced someone like De Los Santos. Well, he hasn't faced someone like De Los Santos. I kind of disagree. I mean, what De Los Santos are we referencing? Yeah, but Keyshawn's not a huge volume guy. What do you mean Keyshawn hasn't fought anyone like De Los Santos? He's won a world title. He fought Dennis Baranchik, Olympic medalist. What has De Los Santos done on his resume that you're so impressed with? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm not. I mean, De Los Santos got so much credit for not being able to hit Shakur and then knocking out Ryo. That's his best win. He knocked out Ryo. Okay, and Ryo's still, Ryo. It was before Ryo was a world champion. At 135, how wasn't Shakur able to beat or stop? How wasn't Shakur able to beat Badger? I think I know what you're saying. Edwin couldn't cut the ring off. I have Santos beating Shakur Stevenson on the street. I didn't. I had Shakur. There's nothing Santos did to. I mean, Shakur ran a lot. He defended. Edwin didn't land anything. Edwin couldn't cut the ring off. He couldn't get his range down. All the reflexes bothered De Los Santos, and I think that's a path to victory for anybody fighting De Los Santos moving forward. You know what he wants to do, but I don't see. I mean, the knockout that jumps off the paper, and it's hard to argue. Ryo, of course, but but how many? Ryo was it? There's. I don't like doing boxing math, but I think Keyshawn's going to show levels, man. I like the work he's done with Bomac. I like at 26 years old where he's at in his career. He's in Norfolk, Virginia. He looked great in his last few performances. I mean, stoppage. 3 out of his last 4 victories are stoppages. And for me, it's the activity. Keyshawn fought 3 times in 2024, once in 2025. Edwin De Los Santos hasn't fought since 2023. That says something if I'm picking winners and losers. Ryo didn't get stopped by Russell. Ryo got beat up. GAR is a dog, though. GAR is one of my favorite fighters in the world. People think that that loss to Playo was a bad loss. GAR was winning that first fight, the fight against Playo, in which Playo became a champion, but then he faded. His game plan was a bit off. I think GAR pulled the trigger a bit too early with his volume. And, he started off a bit too kind of on fire. But then you watch GAR in his last fight against Ryo. Jesus, that dude's world class. So, I mean, like I said, I don't like doing boxing maths. But I don't see anything Edwin De Los Santos does or presents to Keyshawn that he won't be able to handle. It's funny. It's shocking to find out that, did you guys know De Los Santos is younger than Keyshawn? I mean, Venezuela, don't tell that to your boy who got starched. Chris wouldn't say that. Chris wouldn't agree with you. But look at DOS, how he stopped Ryo. Yeah, but body rib, he was fading. Ryo couldn't deal with that pressure. Ryo's definitely not. Shakur kind of gave the blueprint. Just use your feet because Taylor says isn't allowed to keep up. There you go. But Keyshawn will be 100%, and he should do well. Chris Colbert, well, he knocked him out. You can't call Chris Colbert trash. That's unfair. You guys weren't saying that before. He got knocked out. And, I don't think Chris Colbert's trash. He made it to a world-class level. I think that's a good victory. Psychology goes a long way in this game. You think you're the man until you're not the man. That's why it's so intriguing, the storylines. Guys, the storyline no one's talking about with Keyshawn is the fact that if Keyshawn... Yeah, but Keyshawn comes to fight. I think Keyshawn's going to try to stop De Los Santos. Just because of this boxing math narrative. Shakur couldn't stop De Los Santos. And I think that Keyshawn, he fights a little, he has an edge he has a chip on his shoulder. I think Keyshawn in front of his home crowd is going to try to stop De Los Santos. So I'm actually going to sprinkle a little bit of money on that stoppage. And I could see it happening. I could definitely see it happen. I think he has a better punch arsenal. I think he is more accurate with his punches. I think he has better timing. I think he has better balance. I think his defense when his guard is high is a little bit better. The only way I see Edwin De Los Santos beating Keyshawn is if in a firefight when they're punching together, which Keyshawn will punch with him if he gets caught. But I don't know. I think I'm not too sold on Edwin De Los Santos. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of perturbed on the fact that so many people are so like, what do you guys see that I don't see in Edwin De Los Santos? I don't see a guy that's too scary. The over and under is even money. Please put some money on that, bro. I think it's a lot. Over. Yeah, I didn't. If I get that bet, mate, let me see if I can even get that bet. I like that bet a lot. And dude, come on, the kid like Bomac that kid keeps getting better and better as well. He's got footwork. How do you keep up with Shakur? But footwork at Badger. Footwork isn't just moving around. Footwork is cutting off the ring. You know, a big puncher who doesn't move has great footwork. Not all movers have good footwork, and not all guys who don't move have bad footwork. When you start watching boxing, great footwork could be just the placement of your front foot. Maybe an orthodox versus southpaw guy controlling the center. Yeah, I do box. It doesn't matter how much you move. That doesn't necessarily mean you have good footwork. So they're not mutually exclusive. And so when I see a guy who struggles to cut the ring off, you know, that's not mutually exclusive with saying he has bad footwork. But just because he was moving a fight and chasing a guy the whole fight, that doesn't mean he has good footwork. And I wouldn't say that De Los Santos' feet are that great. If we're talking about what great feet are, you know, there's guys like at one time, I think Santos can make it to the distance. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm. If you guys want to be, if we're really overanalyzing this fight, what's De Los Santos' path to victory? If you guys picking him to win, is he going to win by decision or knockout? Okay, what's Keyshawn's path to victory? If we're going to pick him to win, is it by decision or by knockout? And then you have to just weigh in the fact that who has more paths to victory. Which fighter, and how does that happen? Sometimes that doesn't always work out. Sometimes the big puncher who only has one path to victory. It would be like if Subriel Matias beats Alberto Puello. I would be shocked. Because when you look at paths to victory, you look at Matias, he has one path to victory. If he catches him, he could stop him. He'd have to knock out Keyshawn. I think the fight does not go the distance. I don't either. I think, dude, Keyshawn keeps getting... I don't know if people understand how good he is. Santos has fast hands, quick feet, a little bit of a power. I could see an upset, but I still have Keyshawn. Okay. And if that's the case, Mac, then I have to go back to the inactivity. Because if we're going to compartmentalize, and you're not wrong there, your points are valid. But then if I'm leaning that way, he hasn't fought since 2023. And Keyshawn's fought 4 times since then. So that plays into the outcome. It matters. The crazy thing is De Los Santos is younger than Keyshawn. Also, the crazy thing is De Los Santos is coming off the fight against Shakur, which he landed like 9 punches, and he's getting another title fight. Why do you think that is? Because Keyshawn wants to stop De Los Santos because Shakur couldn't. That, my friend, is the narrative. I don't think anybody wants to fight De Los Santos. I disagree, Mac. I disagree with that. I think there's guys at 35 who would fight him. Keyshawn by knockout. Flip-flop, I like it. Guys, wherever you are, like this video. Subscribe. If you haven't, let me know where you are. Obviously, you can tell if you're tuning in, we don't have to agree on everything. And that's why it's fun. And a lot of when we disagree, let's just bring in facts, and what we can do is dissect our reasoning. Nobody's always right. We're not fortune tellers. It's just that we side on the reason of our knowledge of the game, knowledge of the fighters. I think path to victory is a good idea to think about. Gold member, hey Johnny, you think when you get a moment, can you make a poll on your channel about Devin Haney? Do you like Haney too? Do you like dislike? I want to see how much. I'll do that. I'd have to be more specific. Devin Haney, the boxer. Devin Haney, the skill set. It's a good question. I'd like to see what the results would be globally as well. We get about 50% Americans here, like 15% Brits, 10% Aussies, and the rest from around the world. So I'll do that. Are you going to do a video on Callum Simpson? Mac, I brought that up earlier this morning, and that fight just allowed me to get odds on it, and nobody's talking about that fight. And that's kind of like one of these fights, whoever wins gets a world title shot, or should be talked about in the world title contention. That fight's going down in the UK. So I don't know if I'll get time. Any thoughts on the other Australian fights? Danny Keating, tomatoes with Tyler Blizzard. Keyshawn is way more better to counter puncher. Yeah, that would be awesome. Thanks, Johnny. Gold member, I got you. Callum Simpson. I think I have him on my parlay right now. Yeah, he's fighting Zuko. It's going to be a good. It is going to be a good fight, and there's a lot of good fights, guys. Shakur didn't anything to DLS like he did to Padley, Nakatia, Harrison, Val.